Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're kind of walking into a minefield,
Oh, absolutely. The biggest one.
and I say that with total love. But we are tackling the single most contentious, maybe the most guilt-inducing, and definitely the most exhausting topic in modern family life. We're talking about the screen. The black mirror in your pocket, the tablet in the diaper bag, the console in the basement, all of it.
It is the defining struggle of our generation of parents, hands
Yeah.
down.
And I want to start this off by just being real for a second. We always say at the top of these deep dives, no judgment, just data. But when it comes to screens, the judgment is entirely internal. Like, I look at the research we're about to cover today, and then I look at my own habits.
Yeah.
Or, the times I've literally just handed a phone to a screaming toddler just to buy myself 5 minutes of peace. And I feel it. I feel that pit in my stomach.
Yeah.
So before we get into the heavy science, how do we navigate that guilt? Because if we just sit here and list all the ways screens are, rotting our brains,
Yeah.
I'm just going to want to crawl under a rock.
That is a very fair reaction. And honestly, the guilt is the very first thing we need to dismantle here. Guilt is a paralyzing emotion. It doesn't actually help you change your behavior.
No, it just makes you feel terrible.
Exactly. It just makes you hide the behavior. You feel bad, so you avoid thinking about it, and the cycle just continues.
That's the hiding the candy wrapper effect, but with iPads.
That is exactly what it is. The goal of our deep dive today isn't to make you feel terrible about the past. If you're listening and feeling that dread, let it go. Our goal is to give you a roadmap for the future. We want to help you move from a state of what I call digital chaos.
Where the devices are basically running the household.
Right, where everyone is just reacting to notifications and screens. We want to move from that chaos to a family media use plan. And that's not even my term. That's coming straight from the heavy hitters we are citing today. We are looking at the foundational guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, and the Canadian Pediatric Society, the CPS.
Okay, so we're moving from surrender to strategy. I like that.
From surrender to strategy. I might steal that. Because right now, technology is completely ubiquitous. You cannot banish it. The electronic babysitter is a reality for working parents.
Yeah, you got to cook dinner somehow.
Right. And the teenager whose entire social life exists on a server somewhere, that's also reality. We aren't going to sit here and tell you to turn into Luddites today. That's not practical. But we are going to look at the mechanisms, the biological, neurological, and social mechanisms that these devices trigger, and more importantly, how you can manage them.
Okay, so we have a ton of ground to cover. We're going to go chronologically today, starting with the infant brain, which honestly is mind-blowing stuff. Then we'll move through the bedtime battles and the sleep science and finally get into those tricky teenage years. But I know you have a framework for this, like a survival guide.
Yes. It's the 4Ms. If you happen to zone out during the dense science parts today, just come back for the 4Ms. That's minimize, mitigate, mindfully use, and model.
Minimize, mitigate, mindful, model. Okay, we will unpack every single one of those in detail a bit later. But let's start at ground zero, the baby, the toddler. Because there is this pervasive myth, and I've definitely fallen for it, that if I put on a highly produced video of a cartoon, bear counting apples, my 18-month-old is actively learning math. It's educational, right?
This is probably one of the most successful marketing coups of the 21st century.
The whole baby Einstein phenomena.
Exactly. They sold millions of those based on the idea of making your baby smarter. But when you actually dig into the neurological research, you hit a very hard wall. It's a concept called the transfer deficit.
Transfer deficit.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a corporate banking term. What does that actually mean for a baby's brain?
It sounds a bit dry, but the science behind it is fascinating. The research consistently shows that children under the age of roughly 2 years, and in some studies, this goes up to 24 or even 30 months, they have a profound cognitive inability to take information from a two-dimensional screen and apply it to the three-dimensional real world.
Okay, let's drill down on this for a second, because if I'm watching, say, a cooking show on YouTube, I can learn how to chop an onion. I see the chef do it on the screen, I go into my kitchen, I pick up a knife, and I do it. Why can't a toddler do that?
Because your adult brain has decades of context. You inherently know that the screen is just a representation of reality. You understand spatial translation. To a toddler, the screen is essentially a flat, glowing universe with its own entirely separate physics.
Whoa.
Right. It doesn't map onto the room they are sitting in at all.
So using that counting apples example I mentioned earlier.
Okay, so the child is looking at the screen and they see a colorful shape moving around on a flat surface. They might be totally mesmerized by the light and the motion. They might even clap or laugh when the bear does something funny.
Which makes us parents think, oh, they're getting it.
Exactly, you see the engagement and assume it's comprehension. But if you turn off the TV right then and put 3 real physical apples in front of them on the rug, they don't connect the two experiences. The synaptic bridge in the brain between a 2D symbol and a 3D object literally has not been built yet.
That is wild. So when we see them staring so intently at the screen, we think it's deep focus, but the research suggests, what is it actually?
It's mostly just sensory processing. They are intensely processing the rapid changes in light and sound, but they're not processing meaning. So the educational value of an app or a video for a child under 18 months is effectively zero.
Zero.
Zero. They physically cannot learn from it because of this transfer deficit.
Which brings us to the very first hard rule from the AAP and the CPS.
Right. For children under 18 to 24 months, the official guideline is stark. It is 0 screen time.
Zero. None at all.
None. With one very specific and I think very interesting exception.
Right. Video chatting. FaceTime with grandma. Now, I have to push back here for a second. You literally just told me a baby's brain sees a screen as a flat alien universe. Why is grandma on an iPad neurologically different from Elmo on an iPad? Isn't it all just pixels to them?
It's such a crucial distinction, and it's a great question. The difference isn't the physical screen itself. The difference is the contingency.
Contingency, meaning what?
Or contingent responsiveness, if we're being academic. Think about it like this. When a baby watches Elmo, Elmo does the exact same thing, whether the baby laughs, cries, looks away, or leaves the room entirely. It is a one-way street of information.
Right, it's totally passive.
But when a baby smiles at grandma on FaceTime, grandma lights up. She reacts. She says, oh, look at those cheeks. She waves. The baby sees the wave and waves back.
It's a serve and return dynamic.
Exactly. It is a reciprocal social interaction. Even though it is mediated by a piece of glass, the baby's brain registers it as a real connection because their specific action causes an immediate tailored reaction. That serve and return is the absolute foundation of language acquisition and social bonding. So the experts looked at the data and said, okay, active video chatting is okay. Everything else, keep it off.
Okay, so active video chatting is the one lifeboat for the under 2 crowd.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the more insidious type of screen usage. The stuff we don't even count as screen time. Background TV.
Oh, this is the hidden killer of development.
Hidden killer. That sounds incredibly dramatic.
It does sound dramatic, but the data absolutely backs it up. We aren't talking about sitting the kid down on the couch to deliberately watch a movie. We're talking about, leaving the morning news on while you filled laundry, or having a sitcom playing softly on the iPad while the toddler is building blocks in the corner.
I mean, I do this all the time. I like the background noise. It makes the house feel less lonely when it's just me and a baby all day.
And you are completely normal for doing that. You are not alone. But the data shows the average child is exposed to nearly 4 hours of background TV a day.
4 hours, just a background noise.
4 hours. And you might look at your kid and think, well, he's not even watching it. His back is to the screen. He's playing with his trucks. But here is the mechanism of harm. Background TV constantly fractures attention.
How so, if they aren't looking at it?
Imagine you're at work, deep in a complex thought. Maybe you're writing an important email or solving a tough problem, and every 45 seconds, someone just shouts a random word in your office. Or a really loud siren goes off. Can you stay in that state of flow?
No, I'd go crazy. I'd be constantly looking up, losing my train of thought.
That is exactly what background TV does to a toddler's play. They are sitting there trying to build a tower out of blocks. And for a toddler, that is serious cognitive work. That is their full-time job. Then the laugh track hits on the sitcom. Or a commercial jingle plays. The toddler looks up, their focus breaks. They have to re-engage with the blocks all over again. Over time, this constant low-level interruption literally trains the developing brain to have a shorter attention span. It completely disrupts what we call sustained play.
Wow. But there's another layer to this too, right? Because the outline mentions something about the parents. It's not just messing with the kid's attention.
Right, this is the speaking count data. And this part is both fascinating and a little scary. When the TV is on, even just humming in the background, the number of words a parent speaks to their child drops off a cliff.
Wait, really? So I just stopped narrating their life.
You stop engaging. You stop saying things like, oh, you found the blue truck. You stop singing little silly songs as you walk through the kitchen. Your brain becomes passively engaged with the audio from the television.
That makes total sense, actually. If I'm half listening to a podcast or the news, I'm not talking to the room.
Exactly. And since face-to-face, directed conversation is the #1 driver of language acquisition in those early years, background TV essentially suppresses your child's verbal development just by being on.
That is a massive aha moment for me. It's not just that the screen itself is inherently evil or bad. It's that the screen is displacing the good stuff. The talk, the focus, the silence.
Precisely. It's the displacement hypothesis, which is a core concept we will keep coming back to today. Screens push out the foundational building blocks of development.
Okay, so we've thoroughly covered the infants. Let's move up a bracket. Let's talk about toddlers and preschoolers, the 2 to 5-year-olds. The guidelines shift a bit here, right?
They do. The AAP and the CPS loosen the reins slightly for this age group. The official recommendation is a maximum of 1 hour per day of high-quality programming.
1 hour total. And high quality means what, exactly? I assume we're not talking about those weird unboxing videos on YouTube.
Definitely not unboxing videos. Or teenagers playing video games and yelling. Think classic PBS style Sesame Street, Daniel Tiger. Shows with a slower pace, a clear narrative structure, and pro-social lessons.
Right. Sharing, talking about feelings.
Yes, and here's the key nuance that parents often miss. The pacing of the show matters just as much as the content.
Why does pacing matter? If it's a cartoon about cars, does it matter how fast it is?
It matters hugely for executive function. If you watch a modern, fast-paced action cartoon, the scene literally cuts every 2 to 3 seconds. Flash noise, cut. Flash noise, cut.
Yeah, they give me a headache sometimes.
Because it overstimulates the brain's orientation response. It floods the child's nervous system with dopamine just to keep them glued to the screen.
It's like a sugar rush for the eyes.
That is a perfect analogy, and here's the danger. When you turn that fast-paced show off, the real world where wooden blocks don't explode and dogs don't fly and things just move slowly, the real world feels incredibly boring to them. It feels severely understimulating.
Because their brain is still vibrating at the frequency of the cartoon.
Yes, and longitudinal studies link early exposure to fast-paced shows with attention deficits later in life. Whereas slower shows, think Mr. Rogers back in the day, or Daniel Tiger, now they actually mimic the real-time pace of reality. They allow the brain to process the information. They teach patience.
Okay, that is super practical. 1 hour, slow pace.
Yeah.
I want to pivot now to the second section of our deep dive. We've talked a lot about the brain, but we really need to talk about the physical body. Specifically, the thing that every single parent I know is obsessed with. Sleep.
Ah, yes. The bedtime battle.
It is a nightly war of attrition in so many houses. And we all know the golden rule, right? No screens before bed, we hear it all the time. But honestly, in the real world, that is so incredibly hard to enforce, especially with older kids. So I have to ask, is it really that big of a deal? If my kid watches a quiet, slow-paced show at 7:30 p.m. and goes to bed at 8:00, is that really destroying their sleep?
I am going to be the bearer of bad news here. Yes,
Yeah.
it absolutely is. And we really need to understand the underlying biology to understand why it's not just a suggestion, but a physiological reality. It's not just about the content getting them riled up. It is fundamentally about light.
Blue light, blue light.
But let's be specific about how this works. The human brain has evolved over millions of years to take its waking and sleeping cues directly from the sun. When the sun goes down in the evening, the blue light naturally disappears from the visible spectrum, and our brains start producing melatonin.
Melatonin is the sleep hormone.
Exactly. It is the chemical signal that washes over the brain and tells the body, okay, it is time to shut down, repair, and rest.
And these screens, they basically mimic the sun.
They don't just mimic the sun, they mimic high noon. The specific wavelength of blue light emitted by modern LEDs, the phones, the tablets, the flat-screen TVs, it hits the retinal ganglion cells in the back of the eye and sends a direct, unmistakable signal to the brain's master clock.
And that signal says it's daytime.
It screams, wake up! It is the middle of the day.
So it's active suppression. We aren't just delaying their sleep because they're distracted. We are chemically preventing their brain from getting ready for sleep.
You hit the nail on the head. You are actively suppressing their natural melatonin curve. So even if the child does manage to fall asleep, maybe just from sheer physical exhaustion after a long day, the quality of that sleep is fundamentally different. They get Significantly less deep, restorative, slow wave sleep. They wake up groggy.
And the official guideline from the medical bodies is to unplug how long before bed?
Ideally a full 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, hold on. Let's do the math on a normal family evening. If dinner is at 6:30 and bedtime is 8:30, that means no TV after dinner.
Yep.
Ever. For a lot of families, that feels completely aspirational, like almost impossible.
I hear you. It is highly aspirational for many modern busy families. I won't lie to you about that. It requires a massive routine shift. But if 2 hours feels completely impossible right now, you have to aim for at least one. 1 hour is the absolute bare minimum required to let that melatonin production start to naturally recover before their head hits the pillow.
Okay, 1 hour is a starting point. But what about the physical presence of the device in the room? The outline brings up this concept of the bedroom zone.
This is a total non-negotiable for me and for the pediatricians. The research here is crystal clear and, frankly, a bit alarming. The mere physical presence of a smart device in the bedroom, even if the screen is totally black and it is turned off, is strongly associated with fewer minutes of sleep per night.
Wait, just having it sitting in the room, how does that work? Is it emitting some kind of magnetic field we don't know about?
No, it's not radiation, it's psychological gravity.
Psychological gravity. Explain that.
If you are a teenager, or honestly even a 10-year-old now, and your smartphone is sitting right there on the nightstand, your brain remains on a low-level alert. Subconsciously, you're thinking, did it buzz? Did someone like my post? Is there a group chat happening right now that I'm missing?
Oh, the FOMO is keeping them awake.
Exactly. You are in a state of hypervigilance. The brain cannot fully drop into a state of deep rest when a part of its processing power is actively waiting for a social signal from that glowing rectangle.
Wow. So what is the practical solution? Because kids use their phones as alarm clocks now.
The solution is wonderfully simple. Buy an alarm clock, a cheap, old-school, ugly plastic digital alarm clock from the drugstore. Put that on the nightstand and charge every single smart device out in the kitchen or the hallway.
I really love the ugly alarm clock rule. It solves the whole problem instantly. Okay, before we leave the physical toll section, we have to touch on the other really big health consequence: obesity. The data in our sources mentions a Canadian study linking just one single hour of screen time a day to a 50% increase in the likelihood of a child being overweight. That number seems incredibly high to me. Is that causation or just correlation?
It's a bit of both. But the underlying mechanisms are very distinct and proven. Most people intuitively think, oh, it's just because they are sitting still on the couch instead of running around outside. And yes, sedentary behavior is absolutely part of the equation. But sitting and reading a book is also highly sedentary, right? And reading is not linked to childhood obesity in the same way screen time is.
That's a really great point. I can sit in a chair and read a novel for 3 hours, but I don't naturally gain weight from doing that. What is the fundamental difference?
Snacking and advertising, those are the two huge variables. When you or a child watch a screen, you become highly disassociated from your physical body's natural hunger and fullness signals. You engage in what researchers call mindless eating.
The popcorn effect at the movie theater.
Exactly. You eat the entire giant bucket of popcorn, not because you are actually hungry for a bucket of popcorn, but because your brain's attention is entirely hijacked by the movie, not your stomach.
And the advertising aspect.
Think about what they are watching. Even on paid streaming services or YouTube, product placement and targeted ads exist everywhere. Children are constantly bombarded with highly engineered visual cues for sugary, ultra-processed, high-calorie foods.
That's food commercials, snack branding.
Right. And these visual cues literally trigger chemical cravings in the brain. So you have a scenario where a child is moving significantly less, they're eating mindlessly without realizing they are full, and they are being subliminally programmed to crave sugar. It is an absolute perfect storm for metabolic health issues.
Okay, well, we have officially terrified everyone listening. We've covered the developmental brain gaps, the sleep destruction, and the major health risks. Now let's pivot to the hope.
Yeah.
Stock strategy. You mentioned the 4Ms earlier as our toolkit.
Yes. Minimize, mitigate, mindful use, and model. This is how we actually survive the digital age.
All right, let's break them down one by one. Step 1.
This directly links back to the time limits we already discussed. The AAP rules. 0 screens under 2, maximum 1 hour for preschoolers. But I really want to reframe the word minimize for parents listening. When you talk to your kids, don't frame it as taking something away from them. Frame it as protecting their time.
Protecting time for what exactly?
For the things that actually build a healthy human being. Protecting time for sleep. protecting time for outdoor free play, for face-to-face conversation with their siblings. If you frame the rule as, hey, we are minimizing screens today so we can maximize our fun outside, it sells a lot better to a child than just saying, I am taking your iPad away because it's bad for your brain.
That's so smart. It's all about the PR.
Yeah.
Marketing matters,
Yeah.
even with parenting. Okay, step 2, mitigate. This one is really interesting to me. The sources call it co-viewing.
Yes, co-viewing. This is the ultimate solution for that transfer deficit we talked about with the toddlers. If you were going to let your 3-year-old watch their 1 hour of a show, don't just put it on and walk away. Sit down with them.
But let's be totally honest here. The reality is, parents use that hour of screen time specifically so they can walk away, so they can do the dishes or answer an email or just breathe for a second.
And that is perfectly fine in moderation. Parents are human. But if you want to actively mitigate the developmental harm of the screen, you need to occasionally turn that passive viewing experience into an active shared one. You have to become the bridge between the 2D screen and the 3D world.
Give me a script for that. Like, what does that actually look like? I'm sitting on the rug with my toddler watching a show about, I don't know, a farm. What do I actually do?
You narrate, you point at the screen, you say things like, look at that big brown cow. What sound does a cow make? Moo! Or you pause it and say, oh no, the farmer looks sad. Why do you think he is sad? Is it because he lost his favorite hat?
So you're basically forcing their brain to wake up and process the emotion and the context, rather than just zoning out.
Exactly. You are scaffolding their learning. You are signaling to their brain, hey, this isn't just a stream of flashing lights. This is a story with meaning. And then the most crucial step of mitigating is connecting it to the real world later in the day.
How so?
When you were having lunch 2 hours later, you bring it up. You say, remember that cow we saw on the TV this morning? Do you want to drink some milk, just like the milk the cow makes? That active recall is what actually builds the bridge over the transfer deficit.
I love that. It makes watching TV a shared activity, kind of like reading a picture book together.
Precisely. You wouldn't just hand a 2-year-old a book and walk away. You read it to them. Treat the screen the same way. Okay, step 3, mindful use.
Mindful use. It sounds a bit like mindfulness meditation book for our phones.
It sort of is, actually. It's all about intention versus habit. We want to teach our kids, and frankly, we desperately need to teach ourselves to pause and ask a simple question. Why did I just pick up this device?
Right. Recognizing the difference between, I need to check the weather forecast for tomorrow, and I'm feeling slightly bored, so my hand just reached into my pocket automatically.
Correct. One is using technology as a specific tool to solve a problem. The other is allowing yourself to be used by a digital pacifier. We want screens to remain tools. If your kid says, I want to learn how to fold a really cool paper airplane, let's look up a tutorial video. That is fantastic. That is mindful, intentional use. But if they say, I am going to mindlessly scroll Instagram for 45 minutes because I'm trying to avoid starting my math homework, that is mindless use.
So how do we enforce that? Do we actually verbalize that distinction to them?
Yes. You literally say it out loud to model it. You say, I am turning on the TV right now to watch the basketball game, and when the game is over, I'm turning the TV off. You clearly define the start point and the end point before you even turn it on.
Which perfectly leads us to the hardest one of the 4 M's. Step 4.
Model.
Yes, the
Yeah.
parent's role. I call this the hard truth section of the deep dive. I feel like I need to brace myself for this one. Let's have it.
It is a bitter pill to swallow, but we absolutely cannot ask our children to develop a healthy, bounded relationship with technology if we are functioning as digital addicts ourselves. It really is that simple. And we have to talk about a phenomenon called technoference.
Technoference. Like technology interference.
Exactly. It's the measurable interference in the parent-child relationship caused directly by technology. Think about being at the playground. You see a parent pushing their kid on a swing, but the parent is staring down at their phone in their other hand. The child is shouting, watch me, mommy. Look how high I am. And mommy just mumbles, but never actually looks up from the screen.
Ouch. That really hurts to hear because I've seen it 100 times, and I'm being honest, I've absolutely done it.
We all have. Every modern parent has done this. But we have to realize the message that behavior sends to the developing child. It is profound. It silently tells them, this piece of metal and glass is more interesting, more important, and more worthy of my sustained attention than you are.
Man, that is brutal when you put it that way.
It is brutal, and the psychological research shows that children will actively act out to compete with the device. They will deliberately misbehave, they will throw sudden tantrums, they will break things, simply to force you to put the phone down and look at them. Because to a child, receiving negative attention from you is vastly superior to being completely ignored for a screen.
So, wait, you're saying the random bad behavior I deal with in the afternoon might actually be a completely rational response from a kid who just feels ignored by my smartphone?
Very often, yes. It is a bid for connection. So, modeling the right behavior means when you are interacting with your kids, actually be with your kids. Put the phone in another room. If you want them to become readers, they need to physically see you sitting on the couch reading a paper book, not a Kindle that looks exactly like an iPad from across the room. Show them what being fully unplugged looks like in real life.
That is the ultimate challenge for us adults. Okay, so we have the 4 M's. Minimize, mitigate, mindful use, model. But let's play this out. Let's say we do minimize. We follow the rules. We take the screens away. Now we have a massive vacuum in the house. We have a profoundly bored, probably whiny kid. We need an antidote to the screen.
The scientifically proven antidote is green time,
Green time,
meaning nature.
nature, getting outside.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about the displacement hypothesis, right? The idea that screens displace healthy developmental activities. Well, nature is the ultimate neurological reset button. It actively undoes the damage.
But why specifically nature? Why not just have them play with Legos inside on the carpet?
Legos are great for spatial reasoning, but nature offers a very specific psychological benefit called attention restoration. There's a fascinating theory by environmental psychologist, the Kaplans, about this. Screens demand what they call directed attention. That is a hard, fatiguing, forced focus. Nature, on the other hand, engages what is called soft fascination. Soft fascination. I like the sound of that.
It's things like watching the movement of leaves blowing in the wind, or looking at clouds drift by, or watching a bug crawl across the sidewalk. It is sensory input that does not demand a stress response. It allows the directed attention center of the brain to finally rest and recharge its batteries.
So taking them outside is basically like a neurological spa day for their brain.
Yes, and the research clearly shows that higher levels of green time are directly associated with better cognitive functioning, significantly lower anxiety, and better impulse control in kids. So my actionable advice to parents is this. Start using the outdoors as a deliberate intervention.
So saying go outside and play isn't just an annoyed dismissal. It's actually a medical prescription.
Exactly. If your kid has had a heavily screen-dependent day, maybe they were homesick from school or it rained all weekend, you have to proactively balance those scales. Get them outside for 30 solid minutes, even if they complain. The raw sensory input of the outdoors, the physical unevenness of the ground, the smell of damp dirt, the temperature changes, it literally wakes up the brain systems that the screen put to sleep.
I love that framing. Use the outdoors as the intervention. Okay, now let's get incredibly practical, because I can hear the parents listening right now saying, okay, great, I took the iPad away. Now my toddler is screaming on the floor and my teenager is sulking in their room. What do I actually do with them to fill the time? We need a solid menu of screen-free alternatives.
Let's break this menu down by age, because what works for a 3-year-old will obviously fail with a 15-year-old. A toddler needs rich sensory input, and a teen desperately needs a healthy dopamine hit.
Let's start with the little ones. Toddlers and preschoolers. You mentioned sensory play in the outline.
Yes, toddlers learn primarily through tactile resistance. Think about a tablet screen. It is perfectly smooth glass. It has absolutely no physical texture. But real life is rough, it's sticky, it's cold, it's heavy. They need to feel that to map their physical world.
So we need to give them weird textures to play with.
Yes, and one of the absolute best pediatrician-approved hacks for this is the mess-free sensory bag.
Mess-free is the magic word, because parents hate cleaning up glitter and slime.
We truly do. So here is how you make it. You take a heavy-duty, gallon-sized Ziploc bag. You fill it with a bottle of cheap hair gel from the dollar store. You add some glitter, maybe toss in some hard plastic buttons or googly eyes. Squeeze all the excess air out, seal it shut, and then, and this is the most crucial step, you duct tape the entire seal closed so it physically cannot burst open.
Safety first, obviously.
Right. Then you take that sealed bag and you literally tape it flat to the kitchen floor or to the tray of their high chair. The child can sit there and aggressively squish it. They can use their fingers to push the buttons around through the plastic. They feel the coldness of the gel. They see the glitter moving. It highly engages both the visual and the tactile senses, but completely without the blue light and entirely without the mess for you to clean up.
That is absolutely brilliant. I'm doing that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the outline also mentions something called melting ice cream dough.
Oh, this is a very specific, very popular recipe for sensory play. It's usually just a mix of cornstarch and a cheap, strong-smelling hair conditioner. When you mix them, it creates this incredible dough that is silky soft and smells amazing.
And smell is a huge memory and brain trigger, right?
It is massive for brain development, and screens, no matter how advanced they get, cannot engage the olfactory sense. Smell is entirely absent in digital life. And then, of course, beyond sensory bins, there is classic dramatic play, like building a fort.
The classic couch cushion and blanket fort. We used to do that all the time.
Right. It seems so simple and old school, but think about the sheer number of executive function skills involved in building a fort. There is engineering. Will this heavy blanket stay up if I balance it on this lamp? There is social negotiation with siblings. Okay, I'm the king of the fort, and you have to be the guard at the door.
They have to figure out the rules of their own world.
Exactly. Screens spoon-feed you a pre-written story. Forts force the child's brain to actually build the story from scratch.
Okay, that definitely works for the 4-year-old. But now we have to face the final boss of parenting, the teenager.
One teenager, yes.
Because if I hand a taped-up bag of hair gel to a moody 15-year-old, they're going to look at me like I have completely lost my mind. And teens are heavily, heavily addicted to the constant dopamine hit of social media. How on earth do we compete with an algorithm designed by thousands of engineers to keep them hooked?
We have to understand their neurochemistry. Scrolling TikTok or Instagram provides what neuroscientists call cheap dopamine. It is extremely low effort, but high reward. You flick your thumb, you see a funny video, you laugh, you get a hit of dopamine. Swipe left, dopamine, swipe left, dopamine. It creates a closed, addictive loop.
It's basically empty calories for the brain, like eating cotton candy.
That's exactly what it is. To break that specific loop, we cannot just offer them an empty room and say, enjoy your boredom. We have to offer them a source of high-quality dopamine. We have to offer them a path to mastery. Teens deeply crave autonomy and competence. They desperately want to feel good at something real. So the screen-free alternatives you offer them need to be high-effort, high-reward activities.
Like what? Give me some examples from the sources.
One of the strongest recommendations from the child development sources is the culinary arts. Getting them into baking or complex cooking?
Why cooking specifically?
Think about the process. It is literal chemistry. It is practical math when you're measuring fractions. It requires intense focus. And practically speaking, you physically cannot scroll on a smartphone while both of your hands are covered in sticky bread dough or raw chicken.
Very true.
But the psychological payoff at the end is incredibly tangible. They can say, I made this loaf of bread from scratch. It smells amazing. I can eat it and I can serve it to my family. There is a psychological concept called the IKEA effect, which means we highly value things that we build with our own hands. Building that competence provides a deep hit of serotonin and satisfaction that a simple like on an Instagram post can never, ever replicate.
That's a really great distinction. Cheap dopamine from a screen versus earned serotonin from real-world competence. What else works for teens?
Another huge one is volunteering.
Getting them physically out of the house.
Getting them out and giving them real-world connection. Walking rescue dogs at a local animal shelter, or baking those cookies they just learned to make and dropping them off at the local fire station. Social media constantly offers them fake, shallow connections. Parasocial relationships with influencers who don't know they exist. Volunteering offers raw, real connection. You see the rescue dog wag its tail because of you. You see the tired firefighter smile and say thank you. That builds deep empathy, which is the exact human trait that excessive screen time often erodes.
And what about this bucket list idea I saw in the notes?
Ah, the bucket list. This is the ultimate tool for those agonizing I'm bored moments on a Sunday afternoon. You sit your teen down and have them write out a physical list of 100 things they want to do or learn in their life before they grow up.
100. That is a lot of things.
It is a lot, and that's the point. It forces them to dig way beneath the surface of just wanting to play video games. The list can be anything. Learn to play the intro to Stairway to Heaven on an acoustic guitar. Learn how to apply intricate henna art. Plan an elaborate date. Go ziplining. Learn to change a tire.
So they have this master list, Then what?
Then, the next time you take the screen away and they dramatically sigh and say there is literally nothing to do in this house, you just point to the list on the fridge. You say, pick one thing off the list right now. Let's figure out the first step to making it happen. It instantly puts the agency and the power back in their hands. It moves them from being a passive consumer of content to an active creator of their own life.
Consumer to creator. That is the fundamental shift right there. Okay, so we have the theory, we understand the brain science, and we have a solid list of alternative activities. Now we need to formalize it. We are moving to Section 6, establishing the family media plan.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you actually put pen to paper. And I mean that literally. Do not just have a vague conversation in the car about screen time. Print out a template, write it down, and stick it on the wall.
And this plan, it isn't just a strict list of rules for the kids to follow while the parents do whatever they want, right?
Absolutely not. If it is just a list of dictatorial rules for the kids, it will fail spectacularly. It must be a family media plan. Emphasis on family.
So dad can't sit there with his phone at the dinner table saying he's checking work emails if the 14-year-old isn't allowed to text their friends.
Exactly. Hypocrisy instantly destroys parental authority. If you want them to respect the physical screen-free zones in the house, you as the adult have to rigorously respect those exact same zones.
Let's define those zones right now, because the AAP is very specific about them. Zone 1, the bedroom.
We talked about the sleep science behind this. No devices in any bedroom, period. No exceptions. Go out and buy a multi-port charging station. Put it on the kitchen counter or in the front hallway. Every single smart device in the house goes to sleep on that charger at, say, 9:00 p.m. The phones sleep in the kitchen. You sleep in your bed.
Beyond just sleep, this also prevents a lot of the dark side of the internet, right? The late-night cyberbullying or the endless doom scrolling that always seems to happen at 2 a.m. when their impulse control is zero.
Exactly. It creates the bedroom as a true psychological sanctuary, a safe place.
Okay, Zone 2, the dinner table.
This one is absolutely sacred ground.
Yeah.
The sociological research here is overwhelming. Families who consistently eat dinner together without the presence of screens have children with measurably better academic scores, significantly lower rates of teenage drug and alcohol use, and vastly better overall mental health.
Just from eating without phones.
Yes, because it guarantees at least 20 minutes of uninterrupted face-to-face family connection every single day. You check in with each other. You read facial expressions. You have to protect the dinner table fiercely.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about the detox. The outline calls it screen-free week.
This is the nuclear option,
Yeah.
but it is incredibly effective.
Yeah.
There is an organized national screen-free week, usually in early May, but a family can do it literally anytime. It could just be a screen-free weekend at first,
Yeah.
but you do it cold turkey.
Going cold turkey for a week sounds utterly terrifying for most modern families.
It will be genuinely hard. I tell parents all the time, you have to expect actual withdrawal symptoms.
Literally withdrawal, like drug withdrawal.
Psychologically, yes. You will see extreme irritability. You will hear endless choruses of, I'm so bored, this is the worst day of my life, you are the worst parent ever. You have to intellectually expect that pushback and just ride the wave. Do not give in. Because on the other side of that intense boredom is the creativity we talked about earlier.
You just have to break the fever.
You do. By day 3 or day 4 of a detox, the magic happens. You will actually see them wander over and pick up a physical book. You will see siblings start to invent a game out of cardboard boxes. You will see them actually look up and talk to each other.
And after the week is over,
You reflect as a family. You sit down and ask them, honestly, how did we feel this week? Did we sleep better? Did we argue less? And almost universally, the honest answer is yes.
wow. Okay, this deep dive has been, honestly, it's been exhaustive, but in a really, really good way. We've gone from the neural pathways of a 6-month-old infant all the way to the serotonin receptors of a high school teenager.
It is a massive journey, but it is the most important journey parents are on right now.
Let's do a really quick rapid-fire recap of the overarching strategy before we go. Remind us of the 4 M's one last time.
Number 1, minimize. Protect their time for sleep and real-world play. Number 2, mitigate. Co-view with them, curate the content, and be the active bridge to the real world. Number 3, mindful use. Teach them to use screens as deliberate tools, not as passive pacifiers. And number 4, model. Walk the walk. Put your own phone down when you're with your kids.
And the overarching theme today, remember that boredom is not the enemy.
Never. Boredom is the absolute birthplace of creativity. Do not fear it. Let them be bored.
So as we sign off today, I want to leave everyone listening with a final, slightly provocative thought.
Hmm.
We've thrown a massive amount of science and rules at you today. What is the one core philosophy they should carry with them out into the real world?
I think so many parents harbor this deep, secret anxiety that by restricting screen time, they are somehow holding their kids back from the modern world. They worry, if my kid isn't coding on an iPad by age 6, will they fall behind? Will they even survive the future economy?
Right. The tech arms race.
Exactly. But all the long-term research suggests the exact opposite. The actual skills that will define success in the future, deep empathy, complex real-world problem solving, sustained focus, the ability to collaborate face-to-face, those are fundamentally human skills. And those specific human skills are only built away from the screen.
That is incredibly powerful.
So the ultimate question you have to ask yourself as a parent isn't about screen time limits. The question is, are we raising children who know how to swipe, or are we raising children who know how to connect?
Are we raising children who can swipe or children who can connect? I think that is the defining question we all need to answer for our own families. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, after the kids go to bed, sit down and draft that family media plan. Start small. Go buy the ugly plastic alarm clock. Ban the phones from the dinner table starting tomorrow. You might be really surprised by the amazing conversations you've been missing out on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.